folks, it's Jeff Fuzzy Wenzel from the Woodshed Agency, and this is a rebroadcast of one of our past episodes. Here we go. Turn it up. Yeah! All right, Martin, the red light's on, so it's go time. This is when all the pressure starts to set in. How you feeling?
I'm very good. I'm very relaxed.
Very good. Okay, cool. Well, let's do a quick sound check for my listeners here. What did you have for breakfast this morning?
I had my favorite, my kids call it the dad cereal, but it's a Special K. It's called here in Sweden, but it's just one of those not too sugary ones. But
okay.
With cured milk.
Marshmallows on it?
Specialty.
Does it have marshmallows and none of that stuff?
No sugar. Like I fail the donut test every time, so we can't have stuff like that.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. Well, instead of talking about sugar and what we can and can't eat as dads now, why don't you introduce yourself and tell my listeners kind of who you are and what you're doing over on Kickstarter right now.
So my name is Martin. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Transparent, operating out of Stockholm, but also running a daughter company in the US. We have just launched our third product on Kickstarter, which is called the Light Speaker. Kind of goes into a new domain for us. Our two previous products were for kind of the living room or the kitchen, and this is a portable speaker, but the main thing, it also includes light, so it adds that another sense to the vocabulary, so to say, for us. So it's been very interesting for us to launch it and get the initial 500 backers and reactions, and
that's very cool. So I guess for the people who haven't seen it or can't visualize it, kind of what does this look like? I mean, there's a lot of portable speakers out in the market in the world, but what does yours look like? How do you kind of describe it to people so they can kind of get a sense of it?
I'm holding it in my hands now and looking at it. So the main thing people call it is a lantern, because it has this optional handle and where it can hang down under your hand. And there's a glass cylinder with the light element in, and we made a lot of efforts to make that light element really look like a real flame, like a live flame. So the lantern metaphor is the strongest one to describe it to someone who hasn't seen it, but it is a modernist take. It's minimalist in its form, and there's one element on the top side of the glass cylinder that provides the full range audio that goes out kind of like omnidirectionally from the curved dome shape. And then on the bottom of the cylinder, there's a bass element, the passive woofer, where we kind of made an invention. So the light element sits in this woofer, and when you play it, it actually vibrates that light to add another level of kind of animation to kind of marry the light and sound experience. That's it. It's a portable, quite small lantern for perfect to put next to your barbecue or put on your balcony, but also maybe for a small adventure once you're allowed to go on them.
Once the world opens up again.
Yeah.
Very cool. So what starts the process for you guys? I mean, I know, again, third campaign, you have other product lines. Where is sort of the start of this where you're like, you know what, we should make something portable or for camping or barbecuing or where does that sort of start in your guys' journey?
It's a super functionalist approach we have. It's really like, okay, what's the end result here? What does successful look like? What's the experience we want? How should you feel about this? And our first product was getting people dancing in the living room. So that told us we needed a woofer that's 6.5 inch, and that woofer needs 10 liters of air. So our first product was a 10-liter box closed to make the sound as detailed as possible that you get when you tune it to a closed enclosure. And the reproduction should be as transparent as possible, which means that the sound should come off as a studio recording or monitor sounding. So that's what we wanted, a clear sound, not like the Beats by Dre sound where you really amp it up too much, but still strong enough to get people dancing in your couch. That was the first brief. So then the second speaker we did was like, okay, I'm cooking, I'm having 2 kids, the dishwasher is on. How I need a speaker there where I can hear my music or podcast while doing all this stuff. Right. So and that's also true for most small apartments. Whereas you might not want to disturb your neighbors with something that gets people off your couch. So then we made a smaller volume speaker that's perfect for that kind of setting. And we also made it upgradable so you can put in an Alexa Echo input and have the voice control when you're cooking pasta. And the third one we made now, it's really like the remaining use cases around the house to me is the bathroom. So when you put this on and take a bath, it really creates this spa experience. If I'm having like a conversation in the with my wife in the bedroom, it's perfect to put this on. Our kids actually sleep in the same room, so you know, you don't have to put all the lights on, but you can create this kind of cozy micro environment. If you have a balcony, it's perfect to take video outside or barbecue. So this kind of portability around the home, we felt there wasn't something that was clearly made for that. And the light felt like a natural thing to add in a lot of those use cases. Like in your bathroom, there's either really strong light that makes you kind of see your face in the morning, or there's nothing at all, basically. Right. So this is really like good for those in-between scenarios.
Yeah. So it sounds like what you guys do as a company is really sort of make that buyer persona or that customer persona of like, this is who we think is going to use this. And I think that's a crucial thing for a lot of startup companies. I wonder how much they're sort of floating around and going, oh, everybody will use this. But really in your product, it sounds like it's an audiophile person, right? Like there's somebody who cares about good audio. They, you know, they're not just trying to listen off their their iPhone, and they want a better experience. It seems like. So are you guys always consciously thinking about that buyer persona, that customer journey of like, this is who our person's going to be who would want this thing?
We do, and to be honest, the audiophile doesn't buy us that much, because if an audiophile looks at a speaker with our design, they're going to say it's no way it can sound good if it's made out of glass. There's no way that handles standing waves, which is a very nerdy acoustic phenomenon, in a good way. They will go up to our speakers at audio fairs and put a finger on the backside and say, I can notice some vibrations. I mean, so the audiophile actually hasn't been but our ambition is audiophile, because it's just like cooking. Everyone can taste good food. Everyone can hear if it's a given that we should invest a lot of time, and we tune our DSP, which is the digital sound processing that makes your laptop sound good, in our speakers, and that really blows people's minds, and everyone that has our speaker loves the sound. But people buying it, they just see it, right? Mostly buying online these days, so they can't really get that from the product design. So actually people buying our product is mostly people that care about design and their interior space, and really feel like my interior space is a reflection of who I am, and this shows that I care about the design and the sound. So a marriage of. So we sell really well in interior design stores rather than like the typical audio, tech stores. Right.
So that's interesting. Now, was that something that way back when you started this, you knew in your mind, or were you still thinking like, we're going to make the best sounding speaker on the planet? Or like, what was that sort of initial concept in your mind?
The initial concept was actually a blog post way back in November 2011. So like will be 10 years ago next year, and there was 2 main ideas in that blog post. The first was this war going on with our decor, with technology objects. Most of them are still like these blinking spaceships. Okay, you put some cloth on, but like what's inside? It's like an alien concept. It doesn't look like a design furniture to me. So that was one part that we felt was kind of missing in the equation. The second one was sustainability. So it's like, why are these so planned for obsolescence? Meaning like, we know it's going to be replaced in 2 years. It's better just be $100, because then I know I can buy a new one in 3 years. Why wouldn't the investment be more like, a few $100 and it will last a lifetime.
Right.
You know, how can we make electronic products be like design furniture in that sense? Longevity and modularity and repairability. So those two concepts were the key concepts. And I think we had quite a IKEA approach to do it for a lot of people when we did our first Kickstarter. So our retail price was way lower. We had very little experience of manufacturing products for ourselves. We were running a design consultancy where we did consumer electronics for other people, so we weren't totally unfamiliar with what goes into it. But we have never made something ourselves. So what we discovered was that making glass and aluminum to the quality we demanded was quite expensive. It went from being somewhat affordable to quite a premium price point. And that's something that we are still, struggling a little bit with because we want to make our products accessible for a lot of people.
Right.
So next year we will actually pilot a rental program where it's more like a service, so you can get a student could afford to buy our products on a monthly basis. So we're still our goal is not to make some, we don't want to make sustainability is something for the rich, we want to make product that could go into anyone's life, but reality is what it is, and as long as we can't make an even more efficient production and circular production, our price point will end up being quite premium by those kind of quality choices.
Yeah, that's interesting. I just read a fascinating article on how bad the original Airpods are for the environment, that they are all dying after like X amount of battery charges, that like they drop, you used to be able to wear them for 3 hours a day. Now it's like 1 hour a day and you got to recharge them. And at some point you just get tired of them and you throw them out because, it's $149. And I'm like, what's going on, Apple? Like, and I know what they're talking about because my other ones, I was like, these things suck, man. They're already dead, like they're now not a good product after 2 years of having them, and we're just going to throw them away in the garbage. And that sucks.
The time for repairability is something where I really like, it's the number one critique to them. And I mean, yes, if their Airpods was a startup, it would be one of the world's largest startups. So they're more like a country state at this moment, like they're buying aluminum mines in Australia. You can't judge them as a fellow company.
Right.
But like, it is a true disappointment for me. They launched their new headphones recently, and
yeah, I saw that too.
They're not made by recycled aluminum, even if they can do it. And they don't have replaceable batteries, even if there's 2 different batteries in each air cup. Yeah. That to me is unethical. And I mean, how could you be at that scale and not make those moves when you can't make them? Right. So even if they are doing some things that are progressive in the sense of sustainability, you can't really think that this is the best they can do.
Yeah.
So and that upsets me even more when they try to sell you things like not including a charger as a sustainability initiative.
Right.
So I think they're really they're lacking leadership in some of those points.
Yeah, I agree. It's been an interesting watching them for the last 3 or 4 years. So how do you guys just keep walking that fine line though between sustainability, great design, still giving a great product, not cutting a corner, because it's a tough thing. And one of the things I thought was great on your Kickstarter is I see a lot of campaigns who emphasize too much on the sustainability, right? Like it's like the whole campaign is about how we're saving the oceans, and then the product is buried in the bottom. So it's like, well, what am I buying? But you guys don't do that, but you still have it a part of your mission. And I think that that's an interesting fine line that you guys walked. And just walk me through like those conversations, how you were talking about it with your team, and how do you express that to the public?
Yeah, I think it becomes most powerful when it's part of the brand. We're called transparent, and we want that to be a persona in the sense that people actually trust us to be transparent as a company in terms of how we communicate, that we're eye level with people. That's part of our DNA from coming from Kickstarter, that you provide these kind of very transparent updates on production problems that you never hear from any other company, because that's like in the secret closet of problems that you don't want to talk about. So I think that generates a platform for a much truer relationship where we can be honest about challenges, because there are millions of challenges into getting to a 1.3 degree goal of not burning up the planet. And and also like creating circular business models. Those are super challenging tasks from where we are today and how society is set up. So I think that creates the first point. Like, okay, let's look at these problems together in transparency. Like that. Then we can have a dialogue, and then being honest about the challenges that we're facing. For us, the number one thing that I think people understand that we're doing and that makes it accessible is that the number one thing from consumer electronics to reduce the environmental footprint, in the sense, saving precious resources, is extending the lifetime. So it's very clear what we've done there. We invested in materials that will last and that are recyclable, and we do the actual industrial design in the sense that it's modular and upgradable. So all those things checks a lot of boxes where it enables a product that could potentially last forever, but at least hopefully will last as long as it should in your life.
Right.
So that has been a number one thing, and it correlates with the number one thing we can do as an electronics brand. So that in itself creates some level of like, okay, that's clear. It's not a lot of fluff. We're not talking about a carbon footprint that's hard to relate to. Is it 1 or 1 million trees that we're sort of offsetting somewhere in a forest that you've never been? Right. Tricky stuff. So then the next level for us is now, okay, we've done that. And I think people do trust that we're on that journey, and that it's clear. The next step is actually getting to a circular business model where it's like, how well do we take care of, and we're still generating electronic trash at the end of the line of that use cycle. How well are we taking care of our footprint? And are we doing that in a business model that's actually circular and sustainable, both from a people, planet, profit perspective? We, at the end of the day, cannot run an operation if we don't pay our staff decent salaries. So that profit aspect cannot be completely forgotten either. And to circle back to how Kickstarter campaigns deal with these issues, I think it's tricky. For example, with our second product, the small transparent speaker, we made a kind of a big effort on talking about the big pile of consumer electronic trash being dumped and not being handled. And we just felt, that's not a good purchasing experience. At the end of the day, you're looking at a speaker to create happiness in your life, if we spend 80% of our time talking to you about not making you happy about the state of the planet, it's really tricky to create a good relationship together. It's like a bad date. Like, okay, I hear that you care about this, but I kind of want to talk about something else as well, apart from the environment. Like, how are you? So I think it's tricky to deal with as a brand. I think we've done it in a way where it makes sense in terms of really aligning our company vision. Being the first circular tech brand is our vision, and I'm not sure we're going to be there, but it shows you that we want to be the Patagonia of consumer electronics, that we really talk about it as founders, as the people who make decisions in this company. So it's on the forefront of our thinking. And then our mission, to make things last in your life, that's a commitment that we have to consumers that I think they feel is real. And that we put money behind, so to say, that we make it hard for ourselves. And then thirdly, to make our products, our unique selling point is timeless modular electronics. So timeless, that's a tricky thing as well. But that goes counter to planned obsolescence. We're not making a thing now that we're going to try to get you to throw away in 3 years and buy another one. Rather, like, want a line of products that we could take care of all your needs in a sense in your home and create an ecosystem, but not like throwing away things. So and then modular, that I talked on that point, and electronics, that's what we do. So but it's good to create that level of clarity. Then you take away a lot of the stuff. So I actually talked about these topics specifically with Kickstarter running our campaigns, that they as a platform need to make these things more included somehow in the general base, just like risk and rewards. Like, how is this project actually? And I've been part of putting that last category of questions now in the bottom of each tech and design project that asks those general questions that everyone should talk about. And how will this be shipped? How will this be manufactured? What are you doing, etc. So now those questions are there, and I think it's great, because now that's that's more like the contract that only
Right.
like a very percentage of the world will read. But those who care, they can actually start comparing projects and getting this kind of benchmark sustainability, which we should expect from everyone going. And it is, even in those questions, is like, how are you working with sustainable manufacturing? There's nothing that's sustainable about manufacturing. You need to sort of basically chop down woods to get the factory there.
Right.
It's run on energy that's typically not sustainable, and then you're taking, you know, minerals and resources from the earth. None of that, like, you know, environmental friendly. No one's hugging a tree. You know, there's nothing friendly going on. It's very industrial. The language we have about these problems is still immature, and I hope really the next 10 years will change that. And the global kind of feeling we have from all being hit by a virus will create this global immune system to corporate bullshit about environmentalism as well, and that will like get in this together and like really start talking about it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. I mean, it's exciting that where like the passion that you're putting behind, it's not just a speaker. It's got all this other weight behind it, behind the scenes that we're working on, because it seems like that's just such a great mission. So on the light speaker itself, like what's the timetable from we're going to make this to what I'm looking at right now on Kickstarter for you guys?
It's so painfully long. I come from a design background, and my co-founder is a designer. I typically, like, he comes with he has to like deliver, like once we kind of greenlit a prototype or anything, he has to come with a plan all the way reaching to market. And I always multiply that plan by 3, because he is a creative in his head. He can see perfectly clear like how that's going to happen. But then reality hits. I'm typically the one like, well, he's faced with production. He's actually in the trenches with all the engineers, but I also manage a lot of the reality aspects of shipping boxes around the world.
Right.
I mean, we were caught in the wildfires 2 weeks in the port in California. We were caught in the Belarus uprising for 2 weeks because we were shipping things with trains over Russia, and they changed trains in Russia to European with, and the container was stuck there. Like everything that you can imagine happening in real life when you move physical things is incredible. Like that, you know, it is hard. So timelines are, you know, all models are wrong, but some are useful. You know, you have to commit, and we have to communicate now when we're distributing to stores that they're you know, planning campaigns, and so putting that puzzle down is tricky. And so typically it starts with us having a bunch of concepts. In this, we knew we wanted to make a portable speaker. We were, you know, unsure. We made concepts that were included glass, and it's kind of a signature thing. And this one just got this quite strong DNA of the lantern. It's an object that we know hangs around for decades in the Swedish archipelago. People have an emotional relationship to that product, which enhances the like probability of people keeping it for a lifetime. So it felt like a pretty strong metaphor, but then we didn't want to make a lantern copy. So actually it comes with the handle unassembled, because it's more likely in how people are living that it will be quite stationary, that people will put it in that spot where they listen most often, and they won't use the portability. It's interesting, like you find things out by prototyping. And I think in the case of this product, it was probably like from a bunch of concepts to when we had the light. I had the eureka moment of calling it the light speaker. It's a very strong and clear name. You know, we tried to tell it like this. So from that eureka moment to where we are today, it's probably 1.5 years, and it's probably 2 years and we initiated concepting.
Yeah. Over that period, what would you think what would be the thing that was keeping you guys up at night the most? Like as you're going through this process, you're making prototypes, you're going through it all. What are you just like, man, we really got to make sure we get this part right?
To be honest, from my end, it's the quality, cost, and time kind of equation. So there's always like so much you can do in a product, and at some point you have to sort of spec it down and not do everything. Right. So getting we're so ambitious when it comes to design. So we're doing a lot of things behind the scenes, like the tooling for the aluminum now and the dome thing. It's tricky. And
Right.
we're it's something that Apple can tackle with unlimited resources. But we, being a 5-people team, it's those are the main, like, what battles are we winning with this product, and what are we leaving as not prioritized, and then really sticking your guns to that, because it does demand a very strong commitment from us to actually get it into reality.
That's cool.
So
how much are you using, like, the crowd in that process? I mean, you've done obviously crowdfunding is a part of your ecosystem as well. Are you using the crowd to sort of push, go with this type of handle, not that handle, or this color, not that color? Are you using that at all with surveys or anything like that?
Yeah, we are. Actually, our latest update on the Kickstarter page was really run by us sending out a survey and finding out what kind of feature were people looking for to improve it. And I'm happy to say that 56 or 8% thought it was perfect already. So more than half, which is a good sign.
That's great.
And people also get the product. No one's saying, like, put disco lighting in it or make it plastic to make it cheaper or whatever.
Right.
Like those things, that makes me very happy. But there was, improve waterproofing, like make the light stronger, interesting inputs that we can, like, then, get some level of commitment to, like, okay, this does seem like something we really should have strong answers to. Can we make it better? Why not? If we can, how much does it cost? Typically, making a product better in those dimensions is about costs. So
was it easy for you guys? Was it easy for you guys as a company to be that open from the beginning? Because I know some people, and I coach a lot of startup companies, are just like, no, I don't want to talk to anybody about this. Not yet. Nobody can see it yet. It's not perfect. Like, or were you guys always from day one, like,
yes,
let's take it all in,
There's a lot of locking in effects, and the window when you actually have something that's finalized enough to have that discussion, and when you have to commit to shipping it at certain dates, is very slim typically, because it sounds like forever, 1.5 years, but then once you hit that, it's quite like you the ship dates have to happen quite soon, and a lot of pressures on to just, like, produce the product.
Right.
So that window is quite limited, and it was we had the latest round of samples delayed due to crazy Corona year a bunch of times. So we were getting, like, right into the middle of Christmas, when it's not a good time to launch this discussion. And it was getting quite close to, like, Black Fridays and other events where you just washed out by people spending billions of dollars on Facebook and, like, yelling at you. But we really wanted to crowdfund it at the stage where we could still feasibly make a change, like we could tweak something. So that was a hard push. And like I said, that window is typically just a few weeks. So now I'm really happy that we did it that way. And I think it's a very strong power of crowdfunding generally, that you have that dialogue and eye level that I was talking about, that we as a company make the effort to include perspectives like that. But I noticed actually this time, if I compare it to the first Kickstarter we did, we had a really engaged, like, if I would ask that question, I would have 20 comments. Now 120 people did answer the survey, which I think is good. But now when I wrote the Kickstarter update about it and asked, like, please vote for blah, 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 I got, like, 2 comments, which is interesting, because I think email over the last, whatever it is, 5-8 years, has just, people don't, there's like weird people engaged. We should have, like, a TikTok group with me, like, doing a small quick video of it, or maybe it should have been through a podcast like this one, more of a dialogue forum. So it's interesting to also see, like, how do you engage with our audience and community? I mean, maybe to some degree, the Kickstarter platform is lagging now with the tools that are the most efficient in terms of discussing this.
Yeah, so, we've been moving a lot of people over to Discord to have actual, like it's me. I'm in a Discord channel. I'll talk crowdfunding all day. If you're really talking to me, so maybe it is moving people into those types of channels where community is about it, and it's about just a quick comment, not a perfect post, but yeah. So what are you looking for in the prototype to say, all right, we're ready to film this, take photos of it, we're going to put this up to the public. What are you looking for in that prototype to say, I think we're good to go on this?
I mean, it has to be look like prototype. And there's a bunch of things, like the one that we had in the Kickstarter movie is probably this one that I'm holding right now. And the cost of these samples when they're made out of materials like aluminum and stuff, and the tooling is finished, is quite high. So there's a financial aspect of like, how many can we make?
Right.
Is it good enough to send to an out, like now with Corona and having press not, you know, we can't travel? How do we engage people in hands-on reviews? And is it good for hands-on reviews? We still feel like we're tuning like the sounds for Bluetooth, and the light is being tuned. So it's not like really, we're not totally comfortable just giving this to someone, because it's still 20% off the final impression if you just like handle it. But we are, in terms of industrial design, very close to the final thing, and people generally won't notice any differences. So with our eyes that are very trained to see things, we would probably say it's like 5% left in tuning things, but most people wouldn't notice, you know. I think it needs to be, you know, something that's a good representation of what you get. So there's no big gaps. In functionality, I mean, obviously with a movie, you can cut it, or, you know, maybe, you know, simulate the actual experience a little bit. I think it was very hard with this product because it's not like a strong functional light that you use like a lantern, in the sense that, oh my God, the boats can navigate from this lantern. It's a cozy lightning. I don't know how much you know about lightning in Stockholm, but like now we haven't had sunlight for 10 days, you know. It's really,
I'm in Detroit. We have like 6 months without sunlight. So I'm in it where I'm like, all right, it's light today, but tomorrow it'll be gray skies for like.
But does the sun go down at 2 o'clock in the afternoon?
It doesn't do that, but it is just gray skies. It's just dreary where you're just like.
No one's trying to compete with Stockholm. I'm immediately, are you like in Alaska? Okay, fine.
Yeah. I don't have that. You're right. It's just gray skies here all the time. So
but the thing is, generally, if you talk about northern degrees in the world, on the globe, it's actually snowed this time of year. But because of the Gulf Stream, it's so mild now. When I grew up, it was always white this time of year. Now, because global warming, it's mild, so we don't have the snow that lights up from below. So it's just so really dark. But that leading into like, why would we really care about something that's not a quote unquote functional light, or more like a mood light? I mean, we still want this to sort of be able to read a story for your kids or whatever, but it's not made to be
like a lantern.
We have a Swedish word called mysbelysning, which I think we're one of the highest, you know, candle purchasers per capita in the world, because we put these warm candles, and it's quite unique to the Nordic culture, and how we use that, and we want to export that feeling in this product. So it's one of those tricky things to communicate in a video, because like it's really hard to film someone like with a low light setting. You really need to be a professional. So that was one of the tricky things. So we ended up doing like a fireplace and things that you get the feeling of what we want to go. And I think Per did a brilliant job pulling that together in like basically 1 week. So we had to sort of mood board that out a little bit.
That's cool. Well, we haven't even talked very specifics about this Kickstarter, but as of right now, when we're talking, you still have 25 days to go. You're over 516 backers, almost at $150,000. I'm in US here, but that's a healthy amount of backers. Very early in the campaign. What was there a metric that you were looking for to say, we are ready to launch though? We have X amount of email addresses, or enough people are interested in it. We have enough comments. Was there something you were looking for to say, outside of the dates? I know you mentioned the dates of like Black Friday, Christmas, you know, what were you looking for to say, you know what, even though we're in this time period, we actually have enough data to say this is going to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, after running 2 campaigns, you get asked these kind of questions a lot as well from other people thinking about crowdfunding. And, you know, my number one thing is like, how big is your pre-campaign community, and what's your expected conversion rate from that community? That needs to kind of fully fund you the first day for the mechanics of a campaign to work as good as possible. That's what I've seen from every campaign that I've been involved with. And the conversion rate, I mean, we have 14,000 Instagram followers and similar amount email list. To my expectations, to get to 500 backers from that would be feasible. And then we did a quite big push to get media talking about it, getting it in the hands of some key media, to have some additional push there. And also I have good relationships with Kickstarter. So I talked to the leads at Kickstarter about the projects pre-launch. Those three aspects I think are crucial to build the momentum you need to get people excited. To be honest, the conversion rate from our own following that has been pretty strong running previous campaigns was lower than expected, I would say. The conversion rate from press was lower than expected, I would say. The conversion actually from my engagement on people on LinkedIn was a bit higher. That was but because I never used that as a kind of channel to talk about these things. The thing that made the biggest difference was how well we were promoted by Kickstarter, in the sense that we were featured in their newsletters and stuff like that.
That's cool.
That kind of saved the lack we got from what we were planning from our own efforts. Was kind of balanced from that worked better than previous campaigns.
That's cool. That's cool.
So all in all, we were pretty much hitting, like, to me, a goal was 500 actually. Because that's typically like the smallest MOQ of a product that you can get. I think with Lightspeaker our MOQ is probably higher, so we still have to sort of fill out the gap to 1,000 or whatever with other things to actually have a real business case with production. And so our main goal for this was covering these really expensive aluminum tooling when we put up the goal for the campaign, because that was still hard for us to do. So that I had that mental budget of, so now that we passed that, I'm interested to learning more about how there's a lot of tools in terms of Facebook ads and targeting, and it's a big world out there. Can we start doing these things less growth hacky and more on brand? So next couple of weeks, we're going to try to do some more Facebook ads in terms of that are not just like, it's a new Kickstarter thing. It's like a little bit more messaging that are ours. So I'm interested to get rolling with that to see how we don't have a CMO in our company, and we don't have someone with an ads background. So that those things are typically left a little bit unmanaged. So I mean, now that we run the first stage of the campaign well, I'm interested to engage more managing those topics.
Gotcha. So, once this campaign ends, money comes in, what starts your guys' process to get these into backers' hands? Especially with who knows what the delays may look like from the world, right? But like, what do you guys start to do to get this going?
I mean, the groundwork is really like a long groundwork, and we know from previous products, our last Kickstarter was hugely delayed, and the main delay from that was that China just shut down a lot of driver suppliers. They were judged as noisy, so we had like over half of the suppliers being shut down that we had on our list, and it's not many Kickstarter campaigns that have a list of suppliers. Most have like one. So that was a lot of groundwork getting there, because we knew making white rubber in the driver for the product would be really hard. And we had a really hard time getting someone making drivers wanting cleaning out their tools to make that white version. So when our supplier, after all that work, was shut down, we had huge problems finding a new one. And there was other aspects, like aluminum frame is also tricky, non-typical electronic product things. So, and the glass parts that we do for that product, we harden them, like, so they become this broad, hardened glass. The rollers in the glass ovens are so big; they're made for bigger sheets, like windows. So the parts fall between the rollers going into that oven, hardening it. And I mean, that's a multi-million-dollar investment, those ovens, so we couldn't solve that by ourselves. It had to be done on the supply side, and that limited our options. That delayed our products over a year, those two things alone. So it's almost impossible being 100%, if you're not like, I mean, Apple's products are delayed, for God's sake. I don't over-focus on them, but like, it is hard making hardware out there. And you can't do it all by yourself. You are dependent on suppliers. So that's obviously true for any product that we make. And so we try to eliminate as much of that in this product as possible. But there's still, I mean, until I see efficient daily output from production, I know we're not done. And it's having nominated suppliers and having people you worked with before lowers these risks, but they're still present.
So And then how about just for you guys in general, like a 5-year roadmap? What is it that you guys are like hoping to achieve in terms of, are you going into other spaces of like, hey, we really want to go into, I don't even know, some other space at some point outside of speakers and lights and lanterns and that's, this sort of world that you're in right now. Where do you guys kind of visualize like 5 years from now?
We are super ambitious when it comes to that, and it's I think one thing we will really focus on next year is circular services that I was touching on. Like really like just proving to people that apart from making products that last a lifetime, that we're actually here to support that business model in a much more clear sense.
Right.
So that's a big topic for next year. You're going to see more speaker products from us for sure. There's more speakers that we feel that we need to do before we have this kind of iconic permanent collection that we're going for. But apart from that, we are really interested in looking and expanding to not just doing sound. So I can't go really into any details there, but
don't need details.
Those things as a kind of company visionary are obviously the things that makes me most excited. I can already see in my head how it's going to look like, and then it's just a lot of hard work getting there.
That's nice. Well, let's wrap up with a quick lightning round, and then I'll get you on your way here. But and this will have nothing to do with Kickstarter, nothing to do with crowdfunding, nothing to do with your product. So, what have you been watching in the streaming services lately? Netflix, Hulu. You watching anything right now?
Have over in Sweden. I mean, obviously VPN these days you can solve most of those issues. But like, I watched Queen's Gambit on Netflix with my wife.
I just finished that too.
Very impressed by how could you make chess exciting for so many hours.
I know.
I mean, the visual aspects of that movie,
it's great.
The art direction, and there's so many like vivid color palettes. This house, and as a design background person, I could have this as paintings, So I was just like the craft that went into that series and the performances also of the actors was just kind of mind-blowing.
It was great.
We're in this golden age. Fortunately for everyone being locked in their houses, we're in this golden age of TV production. It's just that and The Mandalorian together. How spoiled am I? How can I ever complain? I can go into these worlds like weekly and enjoy them with my family. And the same goes for the kids, like making educational programming so accessible that it is today, that we can watch all these. Like I got my kid, like my 4-year-old, excited about. We have this excitement about all these interesting scientific topics now because there's so good children programs around it. Spoiled with that. And like, how is cinema going to come back after this? I
know it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. How about a book? You reading anything right now?
I'm one of those. I had 2 friends reaching out saying like, what books should I buy for X? Because I'm known in my group of friends as someone who reads a lot. And, my intellectual self-image is really ruined because this year working from home with 2 small kids. And I got like 1 or 2 books done. The last one was from the founder of Kickstarter,
Perry Chen,
the ideology, Jancy, and what's the book called? I can't remember the book title. I know the concept he kind of grown out of this is called Bentoism, and it's about like really looking at a desirable future and thinking about like both on a personal plane, but it's also helpful actually for company builders. How we get there. So I think that book is a book that I recommend. A friend of mine made a great sustainability book. So it's called Exponential Environmentalism or something like that, translated, but really looking at tools, making all this exponential talk accessible to sustainability agendas.
That's cool.
And that, but it's in Swedish, unfortunately. So maybe your listenership won't totally
have to find the transcribe it or something.
Books that I haven't really finished that book yet, but that's another book that I would like. That's on my reading list.
Very cool. Very cool. How about podcasts? You listen to anything right now in
I'm really like, because podcast has become more accessible over Spotify, it really made me jump in. It's a lot more like a smorgasbord in the sense that I rarely listen to one, but I've heard a bunch of them. I listen to maybe one or two a week. That I try to listen to the entirety, and they're mostly about sustainability generally in manufacturing, or like I'm a nerd on those topics, so that's where I really like. I love hearing like IKEA talk about their challenges in a specific material, or so they're not humoristic, and I think I should really be looking for something that makes me laugh more as a next step, because it mostly just makes me hard to go to bed, and I stay up 3 hours and sleep too little because I'm like, okay, is this how trying to save the world when you go to sleep is not typically the best idea.
Sure. No. All right. My last one's going to be around, is there like blogs or like websites you go to consistently just to help with like digital marketing or startups or entrepreneurship that you're just like, man, there's great resources here?
Yeah, I mean, going into this last Kickstarter campaign, I was actually participating in something called Launch Studio. I'm not sure if you know what it is, but it's kind of a masterclass for Kickstarter. So it's one of the co-founders of it is the previous head of design and tech at Kickstarter, and there are a bunch of video assets there and classes basically and it's just like I've probably gone through like 22 of 50 lessons. Wow. Having quite a lot of experience myself, I don't pretty much don't need all of those lessons, but like I'm just impressed by, I had the troubles of guiding other people's before, and now I'll there's this foundation. This is the bachelor degree in Kickstarter knowledge, basically. Yeah. And if you do all this well, wow, like I can't teach you that much actually. So I done 22 lessons in that format, and I think that I'm really happy to see that that's really necessary, because now there's all these services around crowdfunding, and it becomes quite easy to be distracted and over focus on Facebook ads or left, right, and center. I think the main focus should be building a pre-launch excitement and community around your solution. But this covers a lot of other grounds in terms of structuring it and making it economically feasible for a founder to actually fulfill the campaign, which is also tricky.
Totally. Well, where can people dive in more? How do they get into your world, reach out, learn about your products if this is the first time they're hearing about it?
Most people these days follow us on our Instagram, and just write Transparent Speaker on Instagram. You'll find us there, and our website transparent.rent. You can sign up for our email, which is also we try to provide some interesting content. So those are two good channels, or just come and back us on Kickstarter and be part of that journey, which is going to be very, very exciting to follow, I'm sure.
Awesome. Martin, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know it's busy. You're in the middle of a campaign, a lot of stuff going on. Great conversation. And as somebody who used to own recording studios and loves audio, I'm all about the speaker world, man. And I just moved into a new house, so I'm thinking about where am I going to put cool speakers? So this might have to go up to the top of my list here. Yeah.
No, well, cool. Let's get your studio hooked up. All right. Definitely. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me, and it was great talking to you today.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for your time.
All the best.
Bye now.
Bye.